I'm waiting for the search engine to load. Also, somebody has been putting weird filters on my camera app and it's been bugging me. Also, I've noticed, like, I don't know if anyone's actually faced this. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Like, I can't be the only person who's gone through this. It would be weird if I was. But, if anybody's, like, attempting to slander you, like, as in, like, they are saying some outlandish things and trying to create a situation in which you look like you're that person, or you can be implicated in such situations, my advice is that you don't respond to it. Like, you need to don't consider it and don't take it seriously, and let them say whatever they want, because at the end of the day, like, what somebody says offhand isn't going to be enough for most people to make an assessment off of. So, like, if someone was, like, walking around and saying some, like, very derogatory things about a person, or very offensive things about a person, don't take it to heart. And also, like, I've noticed myself, like, honestly, when somebody says something and I'm like, oh my god, how can they say that about me? It's not even true. Like, oh my god, that's so mean. Yeah, I used to, like, think like that, but then, like, I realized, like, it didn't matter. As in, like, I'm not, like, crying over the things that they've said. Like, I don't really care about them, but the things that they say was, like, so many of the people I've met were saying it, so I'm like, does it have any validity? Like, could it be true? Is there something that they're saying that I'm not just picking up on, you know? But then, like, the older I got, the more I realized that a lot of people do offensive things. Like, very rarely will you meet somebody who does offensive things for another person for their benefit. Like, most people do offensive things for their own benefit. Like, they're trying to make themselves feel better by trying to bring somebody else down. Like, there are people out there who are happy when they see somebody in distress. It's abnormal behavior, and that is actually an indicator of psychopathic tendencies. Like, they're typically criminals. Like, they end up in prison or overdose on some sort of drug. But there are people out there who are happy of miserable people being miserable. People are happier when there are people in misery that shouldn't be miserable, but that's when they're happy. I think that's the definition of an antisocial personality disorder. But in any case, with that kind of stuff, like, just honestly, if somebody says something about you and it's not even true and you don't know why they're saying it, it's because it's either it's true about them or it's about somebody they know. So you can always, like, keep that in mind. So if somebody is saying something really rude, like, out of the blue, it has everything to do with that person, not you, especially if they don't know you. If they've never met you and they've never hung out with you, it has everything to do with that person. So you can keep that information for future reference. As in, like, now you know that person, either that person or somebody that person knows is like that. But other than that, like, don't respond to it. The false accusations that they're spreading. And some people will intentionally do this to get, like, people to trust them. It's called a scam. This is a technique used by a lot of con artists, which is they intentionally create situations in which their victim or their target would require some sort of, like, assistance, and during that time they would provide that assistance, and they would get other people involved to make it seem like they're gonna only trust this person when everyone else is already involved, even though it may not seem like it. So, like, they, like, make it seem like they're the good guys and everyone else is a bad guy, right? When in reality everybody is involved with each other, and they're trying to make it seem like only one person, because that person already doesn't trust those people to begin with for a good reason. So now they're trying to create a situation where this person has a reason to trust this person out of everybody in the group, and they're going to use that as an excuse to get that person to trust that person, and have that person like rely on that person or like socially accept them, and then that would lead to that person developing a relationship, and then that would cause that person to like talk to them or say some sensitive information. But that's called phishing scams. But in reality, on the internet, it's called phishing, but in reality it's called a crime. They're both crimes. Both people get convicted, whether online or in person. But that's a phishing scam. So they're doing that to make it seem like they're not involved, and they are trying to like get that person's trust. And then the point of that is to ruin that person's life. That's it. Like, they want that person to trust them and be their friends and all that. They have these weird fantasies about their target, just to begin with. So they fantasize about what the target's like, and they think this is an innocent person, and this person doesn't know anything, and they're just gonna be friends with them. They'll trust them, and then they're gonna tell everyone what they told them, and then use that information to either get in their way or make things harder for them. That's called a scam or a con artist. They're notorious for doing these things. And don't be fooled by whatever authority positions that person may be in. Like, you need to actually assess their, like, the good thing about them being in authority position is that there are significant repercussions for them not behaving or not abiding by their contractual agreement, which is like according to their job contract, employment contract. There are consequences to that immediately, whereas if it's a person you don't know on the street, they are less liable for damages. Like, they'll still be affected and their life won't be the same, but that person is going to actually, like, they won't be able to like prevent themselves from harming you again, kind of thing. Like, if that person was in a job and then they did that, and then they'll get fired, possibly convicted, and then you never have to encounter that person again. And whereas, like, if it was a person on the street, a stranger who doesn't have an official title, who's doing it off of their job, then that person can come back and try to attack you again. That's the only difference. Like, once a person does it on their job, like, it's not as much of a concern as if somebody was doing it off duty on the street. Also, how not to take things personally. I don't know how not to take things personally. Actually, you know what? I think the best thing is, like, what I've observed is that just go in with the mindset that, like, this person has preconceived notions of life and they're not very smart, but they are trying to attempt to make themselves look smart or seem smart by comparison to you, who they think they are inferior to. So this is their attempt at impressing somebody. That's the gist of it. I mean, the way they go about it is completely wrong, but yeah, that's what that is. Another thing I would, like, be careful of, what is it? Don't fall into this, like, trap of being paranoid and not trusting anyone. I mean, that's gonna just set you up for failure. So I'm not saying, like, don't be cautious. Like, definitely be cautious. Like, be careful. And I've learned this the hard way, which is, like, don't leave your things lying around anywhere. And if you even go to any place that tells you need to, like, place all of your belongings in someone else's care for absolutely no reason, and they're telling you can't access your own belongings, right, without them being present, then that's a person that you need to not trust and leave immediately, like, regardless of their job position or where they work. I would just stay away from that person, because that's a criminal. Criminal as in, like, those people are typically felons, or whether or not they've been convicted, I'm not really sure. yeah, that's pretty much it. Another thing, I guess, is don't be paranoid. Yeah, maybe repeated experiences may be enough to cause some sort of like hesitancy in moving forward with some sort of like transaction or a conversation. But just remember that there's different types of people out there, and also like at the end of the day, like you have to like be able to understand that there are people who do their jobs, and it might suck that you might be the one encountering a lot of these types of people, but like in a video game nothing would change. Like if this situation was a video game, it would mean that those bad people who've done those bad things would still be there when I came back, and nothing would have changed for them. Like their health wouldn't have changed, or their social life wouldn't have changed. What is going on with my eye? Oh, it's just a shadow. Oh my god, I was like, what is that reflection? um and like there's nothing going on in their life. It's the same as before, except they've done that bad thing. No, like it changes significantly. You may not be there to observe it, which is why you might not believe it, but people change over time if they do that kind of stuff.